We're going to treat them right, and we're going to treat them as our family until the other folk get it right. And when they do, then they will be ready to move forward and take their rightful place in society. Thank you.
I appreciate what Howard said, and I'd go a step further and say we have to focus on our treatment of children. In a lot of cases, they did not make the choice to come here, but they are here. They're all of our children. And I lost a couple of friends when I called out our state legislature for failing to pass the tuition bill for our dreamers. And that's the kind of mayor we have to have, because the mayor has to stand up and be able to have our voice as a city be heard at the state level and the federal level. Yes, a pathway to citizenship will be solved at the federal level, but the mayor of Nashville has an important voice, and I would carry that voice here to Nashville, here to the state level, and to the federal level as well.
Last week at the Community Nashville Annual Dinner, one of my best friends was honored. The next day, she had two young women with her. The oldest one had just graduated from high school, but she did not have her papers. She cannot go to college. She's stymied. Her younger sister, fortunately, was born in the U.S. She's a star student, and she has a good ticket. We need to make sure in this city, this state, and this country that everyone has that pathway. We need to do it today. Thank you.
All right, this question, we'll start here on this end of our ready work back. Still 30 seconds. We've seen unrest in cities like Ferguson and Baltimore recently, largely stemming from the relationship between police and minority communities, among other things. How would you address the underlying causes of that unrest and keep it from happening?
I think Nashville is a pretty good example. We are not perfect, but the police force is very active in being out in the community, and their base is let's build more precincts. Communication needs to be two-way. It's very difficult, but as a community, that's where we need to put our efforts. Linda is built on consensus and collaboration. We need everyone around the table contributing to this solution. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, Jeremy King, 30 seconds. We'll work back up.
Yeah, be brief. MLK said that a riot is the language of the unheard, and we can't wait for folks to call out and be heard. And I think we have to start with the next mayor has to be as comfortable in Casey Homes as conference room downtown. That's the kind of leader I've been from League Academy, where we really work to decrease our suspensions, because we know when it starts when you're young. Oftentimes when you start in Bordeaux, you get suspended, you can lead straight into the prison pipeline. So that's one piece, is the type of mayor we have. The other one is our greatest investment in Nashville in our neighborhoods will not be a police presence. It will be economic investment in our education systems.
Thank you. In Nashville, we've been lucky. When you have 30% minority population in the city and over 60% minority population in the jail, there's a problem. But we can fix that problem. We can fix that problem by working together. We can fix that problem by ensuring that we are not targeting people and mistreating people because of the way they look or the way they speak. And so in Nashville, we can continue to do this, and we can take that luck and move it forward to a culture, and we should have a culture in this city that's fair to everyone.
From my experience leading small businesses and chairing the school board, I've always seen that the culture of an organization is set from the top down. As mayor, I'll make it very clear how accepting and how supportive we are of all new Americans who come here, and I think we're on the right track. Our path has been very good. The experience we had in Nashville during the Ferguson protest is something we should all be proud of. I'd like to build on that.
I am proud of the way Nashville reacted during the Ferguson disaster. And Nashville is not Ferguson. We did a much better job. But let me tell you what we can do better. We've got about 1,400 officers in our police department, and about 14 or 15 of them speak Spanish. We can do a better job. We can be more inclusive. We can get more police officers in our system that speak the language that they need to speak. 1% is not a good representation.
Certainly Nashville, we've gotten known for a city that's different. And I would argue that we have leadership and collective leadership and a history that's different than Baltimore and Ferguson and some other places. If you go back and look, Sandtown, the neighborhood in Baltimore that was rioting and where the rioting started, had the highest prison population of any census tract in Maryland, had 51% unemployment, and 61% of its residents didn't have a high school diploma. It would be naive of us to believe that despite our leadership and despite our goodwill, something like that could not happen here. Our opportunity as a city is to speak and to have these conversations in times when we're not in crisis and to ensure that everyone's voices are heard.
Thanks. All right, this will be Frank. Forgive me. Frank Cardenas, 30 seconds.
They believe that the first step in avoiding a situation like Ferguson and Baltimore here in the city of Nashville is that our police force needs to be a direct reflection of the community that it's policing. Like Bill said, and I'll echo, that's extremely important. If we have that little amount of officers that speak Spanish for such a large Hispanic community, there's a problem there. But we have had initiatives like El Protector, which is a Hispanic initiative that brings Hispanic leaders along with Chief Anderson and his police force to realize what the issues are facing them.
Thanks. All right, Frank, keep the microphone. We'll work our way back this way. This will be a fun one. Please select a candidate on the panel and tell us why you think they would be a strong and effective advocate for minority and immigrant businesses and community residents.
I'm going to be completely selfish since I'm Frank Cardenas. I'll say Megan Perry. Is that okay?
We'll let it pass for now.
Thanks. I think that she's proven over her work in the city council on everything she's done. One of the main things that my wife and I have always talked about, when she was so vocal on the English-only ordinance to get that defeated, that struck home to me because it said, hey, she really feels and sees what our community is facing. So it's one of the things that we appreciate about her and all of her current work that she's doing.
I got like 5 objections when I tried to be friendly to you there, so you're going to have to pick one of her opponents here. Tell us why they would be a strong and effective advocate for minority and immigrant businesses. Just sizing them up.
Bill, I'll echo again on what you said on having complete reflection of our police force, showing the community that they're policing. I think that's a great mentality to have, and I think it has to be done. So I appreciate you saying that.
Charles Robert Brown?
I'd go with Charles Robert Brown. Oh, I'm sorry.
You can't do that. No dodging the question.
I would say Howard Gentry. Howard has a history in the city that predates many of us. Howard has a history both in the business sector as well as in the government. He has been a lifelong advocate for poverty efforts in the city, for homelessness and how we eradicate and deal with the homeless population. And certainly I think he understands those issues as well as anybody when it comes to minority businesses. Not because he is African American, but because of what his history has been and because he has been an advocate on those issues, and he has my complete respect for that.
Bill Freeman.
I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to know everybody on this panel over the past several months and over 30 some odd forums. It's been a delight. But if I had to pick somebody today, I think what Linda Reppick is saying is inspiring, is enlightening, it's creative, it's new, and we don't share all the same politics, but I think she's done a great job in this campaign, and I'm a big fan.
Mr. Gentry, Howard has spent his adult life working on behalf of people who are not always in the center of things, trying to defend people maybe on the periphery of our society. In my religion, Judaism, we have a concept of tikkun olam, where kind of repair of the world is what it's called, where we'll be judged at the end by how much and how genuine are we in our concern for people who are on the periphery. So while Howard might not be Jewish, he seems to follow the tikkun olam concept very well.
Howard Gentry.
Wow. I guess I won't get kicked off the island. Hard revenue, I would say Jerry Kane. Jerry Kane has worked with the same youth that I worked with through his school that he started, and has had a lot of success, and he's got to understand the needs. He's got to not just only understand the needs, but also the solutions to their needs. And I think he would do a good job at least making a huge attempt at making things right.
Jim King?
It's hard not to say Howard Gentry after that one. I think Howard's incredible, but I'm going to go outside the box a little bit here and say Megan Berry. And I don't often agree with her politics. Our ideologies are very different, but I never doubt that she's fighting. And that's important. When you talk about an advocate and would-be, she is, and she is fighting, and she's fighting for our minorities. She's fighting for folks who don't have a voice. And as I said, I don't always agree with her, but I always know that she's fighting.
All right.
I'm going to go with Howard. About 17, 18 years ago, I stepped in as chair of the Human Relations Commission. We were under a lot of pressure. Some wanted us to go away, and our budget was crunched. I called up Howard stayed one afternoon and talked to me, and he helped us fix our budget. Human Relations Commission has done more for this city, but it has a long ways to go. But we can thank Howard for keeping that organization going. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to take some questions that have been submitted from the audience here. I have way more than we can get to, so let me apologize on the front end if the question doesn't get read out. Like I said before, I'm sure our candidates will stay a bit after and talk to you if you'd like. First one is involving Mayor Dean's plan to move the Criminal Justice Center from downtown. Part of that would be relocating the police headquarters to Jefferson Street, and the other part would be moving some sheriff's office operations down to this area in Antioch, including the jail. The question asks, essentially, if you agree with that plan, and I suppose if not, what action would you take? We'll start with our rubric and work back down. And we're doing these 30 seconds again to try to get through as many as we can.
Very tough call, and Carl is a very good friend of mine, and I think he's done a great job. But I have to say, we need a little more information on why we need to move it from downtown. I understand some cost structure, but I think we do need to study that more. It may ultimately be the right move, but again, it's one that I think more in the community need to participate in. Thank you.
I think we need to look at this as well, but I think we also, why are we doing it right now? And I think as mayor, I'd like to come in and be able to look at this with a fresh set of eyes. I think we do have to make investments in our jail. It is falling apart in our police headquarters. But I go back to, I don't want the greatest investment we make in North Nashville and Jefferson Street in Antioch to be a jail or a police presence. So I would not be in favor of doing it immediately until the community has a voice, and rushing it through here at the very end of the term, or very end of the budget cycle seems a little bit fast for me. I'd be committed to moving the jail, but just not this fast.
Well, as being criminal court clerk, I guess I have a little more inside information, and it does need to move. It is stressed to the limit, and it's not adequate staying downtown. That being said, where does it go? It's got to go somewhere. Right now, of course, the area out on Harding Place already has housed prisoners and people who have committed crimes. Jefferson Street is the big question mark. The area that it is going needs to be improved. It needs to be cleaned up. I'm not certain if it's the best thing or the right thing, but something needs to happen.
A little bit earlier, I talked about how we're in the message, or the lesson of being inclusive when we leave public agencies. And I think that's sort of the issue here. If any large public facility, whether it's a police headquarters or a library or anything, was coming in next door, I like advance notice. I want to engage in the conversations in my community. And I think that's sort of the step that was missed here. Whether or not it's the right thing for the community or not, I don't really know. But I do know we have to consult and engage the people in whose communities we're talking about placing these large buildings.
I think moving the jail out on Harding Road, where we already have a corrections facility there, seems to me to make a lot of sense. What I don't know is what the plans are, what the mayor's plans are for after we do the jail. But I would agree with Howard and agree with many in the community that think that that's a good idea. Putting the police precinct on Jefferson Street, when I first heard that, I thought that was a terrific idea. What could be the downside of that? There's been a lot of community opposition, and it obviously needs more discussion.
Without question, the jail and police department headquarters, the criminal justice center is going to have to move at some point. We know that from a study that's been done with respect to the police headquarters on Jefferson Street. I think that's a little different from the jail. The police headquarters would be an administrative office. I think there'd only be 14 police officers, sworn police officers actually working out of there. It'd be more of an administrative facility that I think, if done correctly, could spur additional investment on Jefferson Street or Nashville. Obviously, the conversation here in Antioch, I think legitimate questions have been raised. I know one community meeting has been held, another one is scheduled for early next month. I think we'll have to see how those conversations go and whether those issues can be addressed.
I would say, out of respect of not knowing fully Megan's stance on this particular issue, I wouldn't want to speak on her behalf. But what I do know about Megan, though, her leadership style is that she would have full engagement with the community that's affected by this change.
Here's another one. We'll start with you, Graham, in 30 seconds going this way. As mayor, what would you continue for Mayor Dean? And what would you do differently pertaining to the empowerment of Latinos, immigrants, and refugees?
I think the Mayor's Office of New Americans was such a great initiative. I think the task force that came from it, and all the information that we've gotten from the report that just came out last week is great. We need to act on those things. Megan feels the same way. I know that she said in a lot of her forums that she would get a diversity officer as soon as she's started as mayor in her administration, to make sure that we cover all the basics on engaging the immigrant community.
I think as a city, we're now known for saying the right thing. We've built a brand on being a welcoming community. I think Mayor Dean and a lot of those in this room get a lot of credit for beginning and putting the building blocks in place. Certainly, I think the challenge of the next administration is not only making sure that we don't backslide or take a step back, but making sure that we take 4 or 5 steps forward, how we continue to fund and empower the Mayor's Office of New Americans, how we continue to build out my city academy, what we do about the parent ambassador program, etc. I think we've got the groundwork for a lot of great stuff to happen in this community around these issues, but I think we've got a lot more work to do.
Thank you.
You know, I would be a strong supporter of continued funding for the Mayor's Office of New America. And I think what I would tell you, there are a lot of causes and a lot of organizations that are doing a lot of good in the community. Connection is one of those, and I'm very proud to be a major contributor, major supporter. I don't know if I'm the largest individual contributor, but I'm certainly in the top 2 or 3. And I think that's important. I think that's what we have to do as a community, and I will continue to do that as mayor.
There's nothing I would do differently from Mayor Dean, but I'd like to build on the success, the foundation he's built. And I'd like to focus on business formation and entrepreneurship. I think that's sort of the next step. I saw Jose Gonzalez around here with a lawyer from Conexion. I don't know if he's still here. But the work they're doing at Kazaza Front to have a restaurant incubator for restaurateurs is terrific. I think we can take that concept, spread it around the city, use what's being learned at the Entrepreneur Center, both in mentorship and availability of capital, apply to other industries and really put some fuel in business formation in the immigrant community here.
I will continue what is taking place now and make sure it's adequately funded. What I would do differently is to ensure that those people who are the most poor and the homeless from the immigrant community also are included in the process of improving lives and making their lives better. And at this point, those persons are being left out. And as long as they're left out, then it's not going to be a holistic approach, and we're all going to suffer. Thank you.
I think one, being present, and Mayor Dean has done such a good job to be present in so many festivals and in so many communities and so many events. And it's been one of the highlights of this campaign. And Charles Robert, David Fox, experience, and I think that symbolic presence sends such a great message to say that not only do I want to be part of your community, I want your community to be part of our city and our involvement. So the My City Academy would be another piece that I would look to expand, the El Protector program, and working with our schools to really say to young Americans, new Americans and others, this city is part of your city.
This is a knit city. It comes from all of us from within, and it's really driven by how we understand and appreciate the person across from us. I would encourage us to have more shows as NPT has produced than next door neighbors. Because once we understand and look at what that next person does, everything else will go. Thank you.
Art, we'll stay with you and work back the other way. Now, this question is about Nashville's Muslim community. What will you do for and how will you reach out to Nashville's American Muslim community?
You know, the Muslim community now, I think, is well represented. And again, it goes back to what we just talked about. How do we meet and understand people on their ground? Rashid is in the Islamic Center, does a great job of welcoming in. Through the faith institutions, it is a critical way, a very easy way for all of us to get to know, whether we're a Christian, or Jew, or Catholic, or anything else. By sharing our faith, we understand what the other person is. Thank you.
One thing, I think I'm the only candidate to talk about this, is to look at our Muslim community within the context of affordable housing. And I know Mohammed is here tonight and has been a great advisor and supporter of our campaign. Really opened my eyes to this issue is that so many within our Muslim community have money, but because of the ban on usury within your faith, you cannot go to a bank. And how do we think differently as a community about serving all of our neighbors, all of our community? I would do that through the Office of Nonprofits, Neighborhoods, and Faith, looking to places like Minneapolis with its Somali population that has already really cracked the code.
The reality is in 2015, the Muslim community is still being victimized as a result of fear and ignorance. And it is our responsibility, those of us who do know the Muslim community and do partner with them, to share who they really are with our friends, to ensure that people treat them fairly and treat them right. And as mayor of Nashville, I will be an example of that, and I will stand up tall and ensure that our citizens who do not understand it, who are afraid, will not act on their fear in a negative way. Thank you.
I think we all understand this is an extremely important question because we've seen a lot of amazing appalling ugliness from this part of the country when it comes to how we treat our Muslim residents. I think all of us hope and expect, and I'm sure everybody up here will lead in the way you'll all be proud. We're a great city because we've welcomed everybody from all over the world. I grew up here. This place is so much better than it was because people from all over the world have come here and thrown in a lot with us. So I think the mayor needs to lead by example. And recently,
Thank you. Rashid, I appreciate you being here, appreciate the opportunity to answer this question. I know you didn't write that and send it in. Okay, good. I think what we have to do is have a zero tolerance for discrimination against the Muslim faith or any faith. We can't allow it. That's not what Nashville is. It's not who Nashville is. And we just need to have a zero tolerance for that. And that's what I think. Thank you.
Is that off here? This one?
I do agree with what Howard said. There is a fair amount of fear and intolerance that's totally unjustified. I think the mayor has the ability to show credibility, to show tolerance, and to stand up and say that regardless of where you're born or regardless of what your faith is, everyone in Nashville will be treated with dignity and respect. I think a part of that as it relates not just to the Muslim faith, but all faiths and all immigrants, to to say that certainly this is a city that will provide you as much education, as much transit, as much affordable housing, and other services are needed to thrive in this community.
From hearing Megan speak on different occasions, I know that one of the things that she's most proud of being a community leader in Nashville is how welcoming Nashville is, being a resilient city. I think through her work with city council and her engagement with these communities, especially with the Muslim community, it speaks volumes on how she feels about the Muslim community and all other communities as well.
All right, it's working for me now. I don't know what that says, but we'll leave that with the audience. Frank Artemis, and then we'll work back 30 seconds. This is somewhat less of a policy question, but still interesting. Tell me, what part of the job do you believe to be the most difficult? The job being mayor. What part of being mayor would be the most difficult?
Well, let me tell you. No, actually, I can't tell you. I think that's a question directly for Megan, and out of respect for her and her stance. You know, I'd rather not answer for her, but I do understand Megan. I understand what how much love she has for the city of Nashville, how much love she has for the inner community. She's heard my story, and she's heard tons of stories about these particular groups, minority groups, and she feels that she has to do everything possible in order for the city of Nashville to progress. Thank you.
Mine would be children, regardless of whether you're new Americans or you've been here 7 generations like my family has, or regardless of whether you're living in poverty or not. I think the question is, are we providing our children with enough services, with enough opportunities to break generations of poverty and to break that cycle? What is our response to that as a city, and is that a priority? And certainly it touches not just education, it touches after-school programs, it touches out-of-school programs, and it touches what services that we're providing to families as well. But mine would be how we deal with children and whether we're providing an effective response to that.
The toughest part, I think, there's several areas that I worry about, but the toughest part, I think, is being that jealous advocate for Davidson County. Going head to head with Williamson County, Rutherford County, Wilson County for corporate relocations. You know, I talked about 13 of the last 24 corporate relocations went outside of Davidson County in our area. So we've got to have a jealous advocate, we've got to have a fighter, we've got to have someone that understands business and industry recruitment in Davidson County, and that's what I think.
What makes Nashville special? Well, I'd say it's the fun. The fact that people are kind and civil and generous and neighborly to one another. The fact that we could have grown as much as we have in the last 30 years and still a nice, decent place to live is terrific. The challenge for the mayor is how are we going to build up the infrastructure, our roads, our sewers, public education in a way to support our big population so we don't let growth essentially make us victims of our own success. We've seen other cities that have grown and grown and grown until it destroys what makes a city special. Well, that's the challenge for our next mayor.
For me, it will be providing or leading a city of hope for the hopeless and living up to the expectations of the hopeful. And so I hope to be able to do both, and I plan to do both. Thank you.
I think it's the thing that challenged, but also that invigorates me the most to get up every morning and to think about how we can help Metro government collaborate. And I, as a charter school director and CEO and founder, I was not supposed to collaborate with Metro schools. I lost friends because I collaborated. But every day, waking up in the morning, the job of the mayor is to get results. And it excites me, but it's also the most difficult, is actually to get the schools and MTA and MDHA to stop thinking about their budget or their part of purview, but to start thinking about education of our kids and how kids get to and from, and thinking holistically and comprehensively.
Jeremy and Linda spend too much time together. But what my wife is extremely good at doing is pulling the diverse opinions around the table, building consensus, and getting the job done. And what you'll see with my wife is a leader who will pull all parts of the community together, get the answer, and then implement. Thank you.
All right, we'll start with you. We'll go back down 30 seconds on this question. and then we'll do closing statements, and you'll each have 2 minutes for those. So, what type of attention will you as mayor give to the need for affordable housing in the Antioch area and Nashville at large?
This city is growing very quickly, we all know that. But we are pushing many folks out of their homes that they've had for a long time. I know best the Nations area, over by St. Louis. It's been a very good community for years for those who own but are lower middle class. We're redoing that area. Where are those people going to go? So we need the affordable housing effort in everything we do. And I see the key players around here talking about it. It is our next key step. Thank you.
Two things, continuing to make investments as a city into development down here in Antioch, much like the announcement we just heard recently, as well as the Old Acre McDonald Apartments development project there. And the second most important one, when we talk about affordability, we're really talking about transit as a key component to it. When you strip out transit costs, the cost of owning a car, and insurance and gas, we actually become a lot more affordable. So that would be the single biggest investment I would make in the Antioch area and around the entire county, is really invest in building a comprehensive transit system.
I live in an area in the north called Bordeaux. Antioch is the Bordeaux of the south. And so I know how areas suffer when they're not made priorities. Mine is going to be simple. I will make areas like Antioch, Bordeaux, Madison priorities. And once they're made priorities, then the right things will happen in these areas, and I can promise you that. Thank you.
To address this problem that has emerged so rapidly in the last 2 or 3 years in particular, I think with several devices we can use, and I think we can do a really good job. We can put more funding in the Barnes Fund. You may be familiar with it. It's not funded really to any extent at the moment, but I think we have to put some money in there. And secondly, I'd like to see us give some incentives to developers so that they have an incentive to provide some affordable housing for our workers.
I was thrilled last week to read about the CHS locating off of I-24 in this area. But what I'm not proud of is that the only reason Davidson County got them is that Williamson County upset, made them mad with some unreasonable demand, and we kind of got them by default. We didn't win that competition. We didn't go out and seek them and get them here.